Hey, everybody, and welcome to We Watch TV. It's the podcast about the TV that we watch. I am Daniel, and this is yet another Supercut. If you're new to the podcast, a Supercut is when we take our conversations about a specific show over several podcast episodes and splice them together into one long Supercut just about that show. For this Supercut, we're talking all about The Boys Season 4. And before we get started, I also wanted to note, at the end of this episode, we talk a lot about the best thing going. And since we've recorded this episode, we have had the conversation about the new best thing going and crowned a new winner. So if you want to hear that conversation, tune into episode 77, The Best Thing Going on TV, Volume 2. And with that, let's get to it. Our conversation on The Boys Season 4 started in episode 72, The Boys Are Back in Town. Okay, well, we've come to kind of a big deal here for us here on We Watch TV podcast. As many of our longtime listeners may know, The Boys currently holds the title of Best Thing Going. Here probably in late July or August, we're going to redebate that because I think there may be some changes coming. But
I think there already are.
We have begun and we're really in the middle of. We have watched the first 4 episodes of The Boys. They premiered with the first 3 episodes. The 4th episode came out this past week, and we've watched it all.
Is it an 8-episode season?
It is an 8-episode season, so we are halfway through. And all I have to say is just don't get anybody pregnant.
That was fantastic.
That was what reminded me we were watching The Boys.
Yes. Instantly. That was from the first episode.
Yeah, that was like the first 5 minutes of the episode.
That was Homelander addressing his son Ryan and the soup that pops people's heads off that's running for office and her daughter. They were going to hang out in some back room, and that's what Homelander. And that was where you just both just cackled. I'm gonna spit out my drink. The Boys are back. It's good.
It's good. It's The Boys.
I would say that I am rethinking. This is no criticism on the current season. And again, we're going to have to see how next weekend unfolds with the Bear, but I'm really excited for the Bear. And I think right now, because The Boys has hit a place where we kind of have the mystery. The mystery's out. We know what they're going for. And it's doing what a lot of shows do. You start to give some of these side characters more of a storyline, and the storylines of the side characters are not all connecting yet. So I'm kind of wondering, like, is this going to fall into place? Like, what's going on? So I'm not saying that the episodes have been bad at all. They've all been great. I've been very entertained by all of them. But I think if I was comparing this season thus far to the previous seasons, this one is probably the weakest for me at this juncture. But that's because the other previous seasons were so good.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I've been very entertained. I do want to know. And I think they will, because they've had side character storylines in previous seasons, and those things have come full circle and connected back in. And I haven't put it together yet where they're going. They seem a little. The story seems a little listless right now in like the main story. I'm not exactly sure. Like it seems like Butcher's story is he's trying to get Ryan away from Homelander,
and he's dying.
Because
he took Club V.
Yeah, and the boys as a unit, they're trying to take care of the vice president, who is a soup, who you referred to her, that pops heads.
Yeah.
And the president is even with them on trying to get rid of her in this effort. And Homelander has recruited Sage to come in and help him to basically cause chaos.
Yeah, he wants to, supposedly under the guise, he says he wants to make the world a better place for Ryan. But I think what's going on with Homelander right now is he's basically taken over Vought. He has all this power, yet he still feels empty, unhappy.
Yep.
He's starting to age, and he's collecting remnants of that aging
gray
process
hairs,
and putting it in a jar.
Gray hairs, not from his head.
In a jar.
Which
A-Train later finds.
And so, I'm still kind of sitting wondering how these stories are all going to slowly find their way back together. Yeah.
Frenchie has a whole side plot so last season it really seemed like Frenchie and Kimiko were going to be like a thing. They're just clearly just good friends. They addressed that like in the first episode. She's like, I love you, but you and me ain't happening, because he had a scene with this guy that's working for Starlight's little foundation.
Yeah.
he has a scene with this guy, and instantly I'm like, wow, these two have insane chemistry. Well, that was intentional. If you have not watched, remember, we are a spoiler podcast. If you have not watched The Boys yet, click off this episode or go to the next chapter marker. This was your warning. Spoiler alert, Frenchie, apparently, where he was working with that assassin group. He was an assassin. That's kind of his background. He murdered this guy's whole family. And then in the most recent episode, he confesses, and the one guy is like, if I see you again, I'm going to kill you. I think they're going to hook up again before the end of the season. There's just too much energy there. I have no problem with Frenchie and Kimiko not being together because I always felt like he more had a crush on her than she him.
Yeah,
she was more grateful that he was helping her. So a lot of the fans, I think, are kind of mad about that, though. They feel like it came out of left field from stuff I'm seeing.
I don't feel like that at all.
But yeah, I just, whatever.
Listen, there's a lot of fans that watch The Boys that a lot of things have come out of left field for them.
Is this play about us?
Which is really, really weird. But so I don't necessarily take their opinions on some of this stuff with much weight.
The show is too close to things that we see in the real world.
It has become closer and closer every season.
They're really diving into it full bore this season.
Oh, man, that picked up on the mic.
It did, okay.
That's one of our good neighbors, everybody.
And speaking of other bizarre things, so The Deep, we got to talk about how he has the octopus in his bedroom, voiced by Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, of all people.
So it's just...
It's The Boys.
It's The Boys.
Back. The Boys are back.
Movie. I didn't have Will Ferrell showing up on The Boys as my on my bingo card, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, they're spoofing The Blind Side, and they even said, he's like, did I go too Blind Side on this? So Will Ferrell shows up. That was funny.
As Will Ferrell.
So I do like the introduction of Sage.
Yes.
She doesn't like to be called Sister Sage. I think that was what her soup name was when they recruited her. Great character. She's the smartest, supposedly, the smartest person.
Yes.
Not woman on Earth. Person. And her brain, we find out, she can even, take out her brain.
She lobotomizes herself.
And it regenerates.
To relieve the annoyance of having such intelligence, and she basically is dumb for a couple hours, but her brain grows back and she's smart again.
So was she missing a piece of her brain when she was trying to convey how smart she was at one point?
Oh my gosh.
Or is this a fault of the writers? Because I'd be remiss if I didn't point this out. Luke Skywalker is not the chosen one, and he's not referred to as the chosen one, correct? Has he ever been referred to as the chosen one? Have they come right out and said that? Not on a show, because you can't use what you said. Daniel was like, well, they talked about it. First, Daniel was like, no, they just did Luke Skywalker because that's what most people would know. And then I said, okay, well, has he ever been? And then Daniel's like, on the same sentence, turns around and is like, well, on Rebels, I think they called him that. Not everybody watches Rebels. You just made an argument against your own argument. Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one. So she's coming up with a list of things. Like Luke Skywalker, people want to believe in somebody. She was coming up with this when she was telling Homelander that they should make Ryan the new face of Vault. He's the chosen one. He was created. And Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one. And I'm like, for the smartest person on Earth, you'd think she'd know that. But I'm going to let that one slide and blame it on the writers.
Okay, so to keep up with her character, though, let me ask you a question.
Love her character.
So I love her character, too. I think she's the best addition to this new season of the new characters.
Yes.
Is she playing both sides for something, or is she truly with Homelander?
I think she's playing the long game, because when they first meet, she's kind of sussing out his intelligence level. Mm-hmm. And what stuck out to me was she was like, you could be like Julius Caesar. And I'm sitting there like, who would want to be like Julius Caesar? Everybody turned on him in the end. Et tu, Brute. And he's like, I would love to be like Julius Caesar. What happens to Julius Caesar, the leader?
He gets stabbed by 50 guys of his own guys at the end. So
I think that they intentionally had that line in, unless it's the same writer that thought Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one, then you can throw this theory out the window. But I think she's playing the long game.
Okay, I agree. I think at this point, I have no reason to believe that otherwise, plus what we found out about her in the last episode where she's doing the lobotomies to basically not have to be herself for a little bit. it seems to me to drive the same kind of, she's really not enjoying what she's doing,
Yep.
but she knows she has to do it for some reason. So I would not be surprised if there is a turn later to find out that she's not working with the boys, because I think
I
it's
don't think
very
she's
clear
working
she
with them at
isn't.
all.
I think she's working on her own
I think she's
double
self-serving,
cross.
Yeah.
She's self-serving, so she's got her own double cross, but she knows how dangerous Homelander is.
So let's talk about Firecracker. I feel like we have seen women like that on the media.
Yes, for
before.
sure.
Anything to say about I think the actress is nailing it.
She's doing a great job.
Doing a
Yeah,
great job.
It's another one of those characters like Homelander where it would be really difficult to play that character, but she's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Because it's just a really vile, disgusting character. All right, and so we also have Jeffrey Dean Morgan in this season. So now, again, I want to, again, spoilers, everybody, and this is speculative as well. Is he real?
I'm not sure. I saw a really good TikTok theory that said that Butcher, who is hallucinating his ex-wife, the
We
mother
know
of
he
Ryan,
is. They have confirmed that to us through the media of the show that he
Yes.
is
she's
hallucinating
dead.
his wife, his dead wife. Yes.
but I have not seen Jeffrey Dean Morgan interact with any of the other characters.
No.
They've been keeping his role in the show very much under wraps.
Yes.
So we know that Butcher's capable of hallucinations. I think they kind of indicated that he has still some soup abilities from taking that drug.
I agree. Especially this last season episode
I'm
with what happened with
interested
the
to see where it
sketchy guy.
goes.
Yeah,
I do think they debunked it a little bit that Huey might not be hallucinating his mom. That was another theory.
Yeah, I was going to get to that next. So Huey's main story arc of the season is his dad has had some sort of brain aneurysm and he's in the hospital in a coma.
Like, should be basically dead.
Yes, and his mother, who has up to this point never been around, comes
She
back.
left when he was like 6 or something?
Is there to help take care of his dad. They'd apparently like kind of not gotten friendly, but they'd been communicating, and he'd given her power of attorney over his medical issues. And so she is there, and so Huey has been struggling with his anger towards his mother and his fear about his father passing away, which seems pretty certain. Everybody's kind of telling him, at some point you got to learn to let it go. And we thought for a little while maybe he was hallucinating her, just like we think Butcher is hallucinating Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character.
She hasn't come right out and talked to anybody else yet, but you could infer that the nurse might have looked at her.
I think so.
And I think her clothes were different.
Well, in the end of the last episode, she did something in the physical world.
Yeah.
Which is, Huey went through
Unless you could say you could go off Fight Club on us.
I mean, you could go Fight Club. You could
Say
go
that
the
he
Fight
did
Club
it.
way. Yes, I guess you could. But Huey went out of his way to get some Compound V. He thought maybe that would be the
I keep
last.
saying Club V was where they would go to get Compound
I
V.
think so, yeah.
From season 1, right? Yeah, Compound
So
V.
Compound V is the thing that makes people superheroes.
Yeah.
And he thought, if I inject this into Dad, maybe that'll save him.
Even though he knows how this drug works.
Yeah, he
so.
decided at the last minute, he decided against it, but his mom seemed to see that he had something, and so she put it in there. The more I think about that scene, the more I go back to maybe she's not real and it's a Fight Club situation.
Yeah.
Because it really did seem weird.
She does know when she was introduced, like she had been working for Vought or like selling because they
Yes,
made a
yeah,
point.
she is
supposedly.
Vought like somehow connected. Yes,
But like Huey had unintentionally been working with Vought when he was on
True.
Victoria Newman's campaign.
true.
I don't know how that's going to go. Once again, Huey is lying to Starlight though.
Mm-hmm.
He's lied to her about taking the Compound V, which is super annoying. And her storyline is just she's got her supporters against the Firecracker supporters. They really found a way to emotionally break her down by revealing some very personal information. So she's going through it right now. There's a lot of stuff going on.
As with the boys, I think the second half of the season's really going to really
Episode
pick
4, give Anthony Starr a Emmy
yeah.
for that performance for Homelander because he was like diabolically good.
Yes, he was. It was excellent. He's always been excellent as Homelander.
Yeah,
so
that
yeah.
particular episode is like bone chilling. Do you think Ryan is going to be saved this season, or do you think he'll go the way of Homelander? I think there's definite hope for Ryan to be kind.
I think there's hope for it for sure. I think that the end of this season is going to end with Ryan leaving Homelander, and that's going to be the thing that pushes Homelander
Completely
over the edge. And season 5, which has been confirmed as the final season, is going to be the reconciling of a completely loosened from reality Homelander. Like he is, this is going to be the worst he has ever been. He's not going to be in any way reasonable. is how if I were writing the show,
Yeah.
that's how I would do it. Is I would end this season as like, oh my gosh, this guy's about to just destroy the whole world.
We got to talk about Black Noir, who's dead, and they just have an actor in there
Yeah.
playing him for outside purposes, and it seems like all of the soups know it and that are in the 7.
Yeah, it's just so funny because they haven't really addressed it.
Yeah.
But so at first
like
we
another
were
day at
all
the office.
at
They're all
first
just scared to death of
yeah, he
Homelander.
walked like Black Noir walks on screen, and both of us look at each other like,
Didn't he die?
I thought Homelander killed him last season, and then he starts talking, and
and
we're like,
he talks?
yeah. And so I just like the way that they approached it in the show is they just called no attention to it whatsoever, except for that actor that's in there keeps talking every now and then, and people are like, shut up, dude, that's not what Black Noir does.
What do you think about A-Train? See, I feel like A-Train's always been the one, and he has kind of been double crossing
Yes,
the 7. I don't think A-Train's going to turn necessarily good. I think A-Train might die.
I
think
think
he might be offed.
I think A-Train is going to die, but I think that it is going to be in at least some sort of a heroic manner. I think he is going.
He already saved Huey.
He saved Huey. I think he is getting them the boys' stuff and working for them.
But I think Homelander's going to find out.
And I think Homelander's going to find out. But I think he will get his like. Maybe nobody will even see it, but he will get some sort of redemption from his character.
So.
But then Homelander is going to, like I said, I think Homelander is going to start going on a rampage into next season, and I think it'll start at the end of this season, and some people might be casualties of that.
There's a couple other things that I have to address before we end our current conversation with the boys. Vought on ice. Okay, just what do you have to say about that?
Completely on brand with this show. I love it.
I just absolutely love it. And then the second thing that I need to talk about is, so Eric Kripke, am I saying his name right?
Yes.
He did Supernatural, Timeless, 2 great shows. He's notorious for using the same actors. So he has the actor that played Chuck from Supernatural, who we found out was God on Supernatural, in the most vile scene I've ever seen on The Boys. Well, one of the most. And I'm like, that was intentional. And then they made a joke in episode 4. They're like, oh, he's probably up there with God or something. And I think that was a wink to the Supernatural fandom. So are we going to bring in Jared Padalecki now? Let's get the band back together.
Get him in there, man. Get him in there for season 5 for something. And are we going to see Soldier Boy this season? Because we have not been teased about it at all. He is still alive.
Yeah.
He is being captured. I think he is captured by the CIA. But are we going to see him or not? Because
I hope we do.
I really enjoyed his character, but I wonder if it's kind of a situation where all that stuff gets played out next season as the finale season.
Yeah. So even though I said I'm not sure this is my current best show going, I'm still absolutely loving it, and I'll have to see how The Bear, which I think is its biggest competition, contends next weekend.
Yeah, for me it's two things. It's two things. I don't. If The Boys ends up losing out as being the best thing going, I don't think it will be at this point in the season. I don't think it will be because The Boys' quality went down. It'll be because other shows' quality is just through. I mean, we keep talking about The Bear. Let's not forget Severance is in the running as well. So there's lot. There's going to be. It's going to be a whole episode that is just the conversation about the best thing going, nothing else. We continued the conversation in episode 73. Yes, Chef, again.
Let's go ahead and kick things off with The Boys. What episode number was that for The Boys?
I'm looking that up right now. I believe it was the 6th. Yep.
Episode 6?
No, I'm sorry. That was the 5th episode.
I was going to say, I thought it was the 5th episode. This is what happens when we're really hot after a run and I don't make show notes.
Yep. It was the 5th episode, and so we kind of had a 2-storyline arc. Huey was in the hospital taking care of his dad.
Yes.
And then all the rest of the boys went and got Stan out of prison, Carlos Espinida's character.
I just got him Moff Gideon all the time.
And
has he ever played not a villain ever? He's villainous in everything I've seen him in.
I know he was also very well known for Breaking Bad, and he's a villain in that as well.
Shocker.
So I don't know if he has.
Great actor.
And so they're trying to find. Apparently, Newman's character had been trying to develop a virus, and I think that ties into the Gen V show a little bit, which we did not watch. And so they go trying to find that, and of course she knows they're up to it. So
they're wanting to get the virus to see if there's a way that they can weaken Homelander, kind of take him out. And all the while this is happening, we are dealing with Frenchie's dealing with his own issues because his lover He apparently, like, when he was an assassin, like, murdered the guy's whole family. He did confess to the guy. The guy knows about it, so he's dealing with that. A lot's going on with Starlight right now with Annie. She had some very personal information revealed in the previous episode. She kind of lost her mind a little bit and beat the crap out of Firecracker. Is that...
Yeah, which is exactly what they wanted to
they
happen.
basically... I think the smart one, Sage. Kind of set that whole thing up to happen, fell right into the hands of that. So everybody's kind of dealing with some separate traumas. Obviously, Butcher still hallucinating, dealing with his own trauma. So we're at this farm, and flying sheep.
They'd been shooting the farm up animals with V, apparently.
Bulls,
yeah.
Murderous chickens.
Yeah.
It was a classic, like, what the heck did I just watch episode of The Boys, but it was really good. Huey's storyline was very sad because he obviously was dealing with the death of a loved one.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because we had a conversation. I really felt that, like, when that was happening.
I did too. You're going to call me out.
But then you kind of so you said you didn't feel it as much as I did, and then you're like, and part of the reason was because, so backstory, in the last episode, the last thing we see is they shot Huey's dad up with V.
Yes.
To see if it could bring him out of his coma. It did.
did.
It also gave him superhero powers, and now this episode he was running amok through a hospital, killing a bunch of people.
His memory very spotty.
Yeah, inadvertently. And so you kind of pointed that out to me, and I do think that did kind of soil it was a very emotional goodbye at the end, but in hindsight, all those people that died kind of made it less.
Well, I just want to clarify some stuff on that. What I was saying, it was very sad for me, but my reasons are kind of like twofold. One, I'm not loving all the separate. I feel like Huey, and yes, he's been dealing with his own stuff. I'm not loving all these separate little storylines this season because I like the group dynamics. So I feel like we've barely seen Huey have. He did like comfort Starlight after that information was revealed, but it was a very short scene. I guess they're threefold. Two, well, it was his mom that ended up taking the V and shooting him up. Like, Huey did get that from A-Train, and that's, once again, he's lying to Starlight. That's annoying to me because I feel like he constantly lies to her, and that just really gets on my nerves because she deserves better than that. And then I did find it very emotional, but I think I would have been more emotional about it if they had just let him peacefully go. Instead, they've created this whole scene at the hospital now.
Yeah.
Multiple people have died, and that's kind of like I'm glad that you thought about what I was saying, that I wasn't being like a cold-hearted person. Like, that's just kind of where I was with that. I was a little bit taken out of the moment because I was like, okay, but now this hospital's on full alert. Multiple people have died. There's blood everywhere. Huey and his mom are going to have to get the heck out of Dodge, and and people know, they're going to know that that's Huey's dad when they see him, unless they can get somebody in there, call up Marvin, Mother's Milk. If they're back from the farm in time, we don't know what the time frame of all these things are, and they can come help clean up the mess. Maybe they'll address that in episode 6. I don't know. But yeah, so this episode, a lot of stuff happened and a lot of stuff didn't happen.
And so then all of those two main character story lines are going around, and in the kind of the C plot of the whole episode is they really took a lot of shots at Disney with the whole Vought thing, and they had everybody doing like their D23.
It was basically like the D23.
Yeah, it was V23 or something. There was a number after it they were calling it.
And like the timeline of other movies, which is funny because and we love the Marvel movies, so it's just like, is this play about us? So I think when I was saying, like, a lot of stuff happened and then a lot of stuff didn't happen, what I mean by that is right now we still don't – the gang's not together yet. So I think they're going to amp that up, and we're going to get some more action of everybody together, whether it's trying to get Ryan back or going after Homelander. But then a lot of other stuff did happen. Frenchie, at the end of the episode, turned himself in for murder at the police station. Butcher, once again, lied to everybody.
Yes.
Because he has Victoria Newman's, I think it's her husband, boyfriend, baby daddy, whatever you want to call him.
He's a scientist, first and foremost, because he's been developing the virus.
And we thought, we were led to believe that he was killed when all the farm animals were flying around, killing people, going crazy, getting the V out of their system. And it turns out Butcher cut his leg off, has him in the barn. So we got to talk about Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character.
Oh, he's totally not an illusion of Butcher's mind.
I'm 100% convinced now that he is just like Becca. Because we had... what is it Samir? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
he was kind of like addressing Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character while he was talking to him, and they panned to Samir's face really quickly.
He looked into the corner,
kind of looked confused,
but it wasn't a look of, oh, this guy you're talking to. It was
a
who
look
are
of
you talking
confusion and panic.
Yes.
So we've got all that going on. So when I say, I mean, not a lot's happening, like, it's kind of like a lot has happened, but not a lot together. Like, what do you think the end game of this season is? Personally, I think we're going to see the Julius Caesar thing play out. I think A-Train is going to be the Brutus.
Yep.
And be the one that, quote unquote, stabs Caesar, which would be Homelander. So, and I think somehow the boys are going to be involved. I'm not really sure about Ryan. They showed Ryan was kind of enjoying torturing that guy because Homelander was like, I'm going to let you do whatever I want as a parent.
Yep.
And even though we've seen those little moments of Ryan, I think ultimately Ryan is still good. And I don't think he's gonna be completely bad like Homelander.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're going to go that way, but I do. I am with you that I believe A-Train is going to be. I think Butcher and what he's doing with the virus and A-Train, the team's going to come together. They're not going to like Butcher's solution and how he got there, but at the end of the day, and Butcher's not going to like that they're working with A-Train, but at the end of the day, they're all going to come together. A-Train's going to take his shot. He's going to. One, he's going to die for it. Yes. Homelander's going to kill him. And two, he's going to do it publicly, and people are going to see Homelander bleeding.
Yes.
And it's going to be open season on like, hey, this guy is not invincible.
And the Supes in general, too.
Yeah.
And how they come back.
And that's going to be like our dead drop into season 5.
I think so. I definitely think that's how they're playing it out. And I think that's kind of been Sage's plan this whole time. I don't know what's going to be. I think they'll find a way to get Frenchie out of jail.
Yeah, sure.
I think
he has to be with the team at the close of the season. He's got to be with the team.
I think the team's eventually going to be. So when I say not much going on, I mean like with the team in general, with the boys, so to speak. I'm excited for more. I think the last couple episodes are going to get a little nutty.
Yes. If
you had to pick, who is your favorite character from the boys currently? Mine always changes. I have a soft spot for Frenchie, so it's kind of a bummer for me last week.
I have a soft spot for Carl Urban, and so I will always love
Butcher.
any character that he's playing because he's always fantastic. And so yes, and Butcher is always doing bad things and always being annoying. And right now, like just listening to what we believe is just a complete figment of his imagination. But I still like Butcher quite a bit. More conversation in episode 74. Yellow Wendy's.
Next up, the boys.
They're here. This was this episode had what I think is the highest of highs and the lowest of lows for this show. I before we get to the lows, I want to talk about the high because I feel strongly it was maybe the best single scene
in the series,
in the entire series.
So we have A-Train, who has been working with our boys, the boys, and we think A-Train is working towards a redemption arc, and it was a beautiful moment.
Yep.
Marvin, he kind of like he didn't have a heart attack.
It was a panic attack. They find out. We didn't know at the time what it was. He just kind of fell over.
We weren't sure because they were infiltrating this party at Tech, this really weird party at Tech Knight's house, and he fell over, collapsed, and Kimiko and convinced A-Train is like, you gotta get him out of here. You gotta get him to a hospital. So he his quick little running got him to the hospital, and just this moment of this kid seeing A-Train deliver Marvin to the ambulance, just kind of like smiled, like seeing your hero in real life do something heroic. And A-Train's done all those movies, but like what his nephews were saying and his brother, like all the saves were like that they see were fake. Yep. They were in the movies. They were set up, and he got to actually feel like a true hero. And that kid smiled at him, and he kind of smiled back. And that was the moment we all know that A-Train is cooked by the end of the season. Sucks.
But I hate it. Yeah, it was like a 5-second scene. No words were spoken. It was just a couple different short pans between his face and the kid's face. It was beautiful. But you're right. A-Train is cooked by the end of the season.
And I think, though, that he's going to go out a hero, and I think people are going to see it. They wouldn't have talked about his nephews and how he wants to be viewed to them, I feel like they wouldn't have inserted those scenes
Mm-hmm.
if the world, if whatever happens. I think A-Train's going to take a shot. He's going to be the Brutus. He's going to take a shot at Homelander. He's going to do something. It's going to be caught on tape. People are going to know about it. That's going to be how we go into the next season. So I do think A-Train's going to go out a hero. At least I hope so. But
I hope so, because I think
I hate to lose him as a character.
well, yeah,
though.
as dark as this show can be, and as, realistic as this show can be about basically saying no one's really all good and no one's really all
Yeah.
bad, at some point I feel like, to really have a satisfying conclusion, a couple actual heroic acts need to be taken,
Yes.
even if they're not by heroic people. And like, I think A-Train is the perfect example of this. We have hated him multiple times on this
Yeah.
show, but I think he's one of the ones on the 7 that can truly come back, because I think inside him deeply,
I think he always
He
felt
is-
bad about what he did to Huey's
Yeah.
first girlfriend. Like, there was always that guilt, but he was trying to push it down because they're so scared of Homelander and what Homelander
Right.
can do to them.
so I hope that we get I hope we get that turn from him. I hope he gets a moment, and I hope that we get a few more of those moments next season to kind of start. It's still going to be bad, and I still think ultimately, like, someone like Butcher, he's not going to get a hero moment so much as just getting
I don't
even
think all
with.
hope is lost for Victoria Newman.
No, I don't
'Cause
think
she
so
doesn't
either.
know about the actual plans, which we'll get into that in a minute. But let's go ahead before we get into the twist, and I put in air quotes the twist because we don't think it was much of a twist. Let's get into the ick of the episode. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way. I didn't love it all the basement scenes at Tech Knight's house. I know the boys likes to go for shock value. I
This seemed a bit
personally
much.
felt it was a bit much, and I think that it was almost like making a joke of male essay, and I don't.
For everybody who is
Like
listening
that.
and hasn't watched and doesn't care about the spoilers, Huey went into Tech Knight's mansion disguised as another superhero.
Kind of like a Spider-Man.
As a
type
Spider-Man type.
character.
Tech Knight is like the Batman of this world. He ends up in the basement with the Tech Knight guy because Tech Knight apparently invited this
And
superhero
Ashley, who was the head of all.
to become his new sidekick, and he ends up strapped to a table.
And
in a-
Ashley
in a-
doesn't have superpowers.
Yeah.
She's just crazy.
In kind of an S&M situation, and Ashley gets to perform a few acts upon him without his
It
consent.
wasn't funny.
It wasn't funny. No.
And they took if they had just done like the scene of the tickling the feet and then we could be done with it. It went on way too long. It wasn't funny. And you had at the end of the episode where Huey's talking to Starlight and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not okay," and he starts crying because of everything with his dad, the trauma that he just went through with that experience being in Tech Knight's house, and he thought at one point he was going to die too when Tech Knight realized it was him.
Mhm.
So we had that. So I think that was kind of them recognizing it, but I felt like they were honestly making a mockery of it, and I think if that had been a female character, they would that would not have gone over well with, and they wouldn't
Right.
have done that. And it was kind of disappointing for me. I know the show goes for shock value, and I'm not trying to be like a prude or anything like that, but it was too much.
It wasn't, but the thing is, it wasn't shocking.
Yeah.
And they could
From what we've
have,
seen,
like you
we've
said,
seen way worse.
they could have stopped. They should have shown Ashley start to tickle his feet,
just went
and
on
then
and
just
on
cut
and on.
go back to the other stuff, and then come back later, and they didn't have to go through all that, and just it didn't shock me. It was just like
It was too much. It grossed me out.
Yeah.
And I didn't care for it. I didn't like the way it was done. I didn't like that they were like, because you know that they were expecting some people to laugh in those scenes. And I didn't
Correct.
find it funny. And there's a lot of like, I can laugh with the crude joke with the best of them, but that's not something that I find funny, and I'm not going to laugh about it. And I was disappointed that the boys did that.
For an example of crude jokes that Hope can laugh at, they spent.
Give me a good fart joke.
You spent
like-
a good 10 minutes asking the Alexa at your aunt's house
That's
to
what I
play
just
fart
said.
noises
Give me a good fart joke.
to the delight of everyone.
Yeah, at the 4th of July party. And this was like all the older people in the family were in on it too. I guess, so we had our Nevin. We were just like egging him on, like, ask Alexa for an example of like a fart. And she'd be like, do you want to hear a crispy fart? Do you want to hear a relaxed fart? And like, that's what we did for a good 20 minutes. That's how we celebrated America, by talking about farts. Like, give me a good fart joke any day, but just not. I didn't jive with that. But we did find out kind of what Homelander and Sage's plan was that they want to put people in like camps.
Dissidents. Anybody that doesn't agree with them, they'll put them in the camps.
Anybody that doesn't agree with their agenda, they want to stick them in camps. But Victoria Newman doesn't know this. So she stepped in to give the speech to some of these political leaders because, this was all at Tech Knight's party. So while he was down there doing creepy, weird crap, they were trying to meet with these like politicians.
Speaker of the House was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sage, who shot Sage in the...
Marvin did.
And that's what caused his panic attack. Yeah. So she can't really contribute. So Victoria Newman steps in, gives this speech. You can tell that's made Homelander mad because he's still not viewed as the effective leader that he wants to be. And that obviously messed with his head. And then, of course, he knows that the party was infiltrated. He knows that the leak really wasn't the one guy that they killed, that it's somebody else. Yeah. And then we have the creepy scene with him and Firecracker, where she's like, I think she's going to die too.
Now, see, that's the kind of creepy I come to this show for, though.
I think she's going to die too, though, because she made that comment about how she's taking the hormones to produce breast milk, and she's like, and it gives me an enlarged heart. So I think they
didn't say that. They didn't say that line in there for nothing. So, yeah, it's like I said, the episode was the best and the worst.
So now she's controlling him again because obviously the whole milk thing is he didn't have a mother's love. And now let's get to the twist that everybody can see coming a mile away. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character, who Butcher used to work with and has been supposedly helping Butcher out, is in fact a figment of Butcher's imagination, brought on by the V that Butcher had taken last season that's rotting his brain. So he had been seeing Becca, his dead wife. She's kind of the angel on the shoulder. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is the devil on the shoulder. We've thought this the entire time, especially last week, and they confirmed that. And not only did they confirm it, they did it.
Oh, they hammered it home.
They did it the Stranger Things way. You want to explain the Stranger Things way?
When Vecna was revealed to be one, they had to go so far as to actually like zoom in on his forearm to show the little tattoo of the one, and that's how far they went to make sure that you understood that Jeffrey Dean Morgan was just a figment of his imagination.
They went through all these scenes, and I feel like everybody could see that coming. So, and it just seemed like to me, the boys thought that was gonna, like the writers thought that was gonna be shocking the way they did it reveal, and we're like, oh, finally, it's revealed. And then they had Jeffrey Dean Morgan say something that I'm like, did they have them say this as a wink to a previous character that he played, or were they really not thinking? There's no way. So let's walk it back. The first thing I ever saw Jeffrey Dean Morgan on was he played Denny Duquette on Grey's Anatomy. It was a heartbreaking, tragic storyline. His character passed away in the season 2 finale. It was devastating to all of us. And then Denny Duquette starts showing up as a ghost, so to speak, in season 5. Well, it turns out he wasn't a ghost. He was Izzy Stevens, beloved Izzy Stevens, wonderful character. She had a brain tumor, and he was basically like her tumor. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character on The Boys actually said, I'm your tumor to Butcher. And I'm like, is Jeffrey Dean Morgan just going to start putting that on like on a resume? Like the fact that they actually caught it, the tumor, like do you think that was a wink to people that watch Grey's?
Showing up as a tumor character twice isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that it was a wink to people that watch Grey's?
I think it was probably a wink, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Now Butcher knows that he's not real. The one guy basically told Butcher that Butcher's plan to have, like, the virus that they want to make can't happen because it would eradicate all the soups.
To make it powerful enough to kill Homelander, it would basically kill all the superheroes.
Global pandemic style.
Yes, global pandemic style.
And they even referenced that.
Yep.
Because they had Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character be like, all right, global pandemic. The show is always just so on the nose. People that are like, I can't believe that season 4 is being so like straight up about politics. I'm like, have y'all been watching? They've done this the entire time.
Yeah, they have.
And I don't think they've ever been subtle about it at all.
Media literacy. That's all I'll say. So I'm looking forward to this week's episode and hopefully we got 2 left.
Yeah.
And I think we'll hopefully put this episode behind us.
We didn't really get anything about Frenchie other than he was refusing visitors in prison because he turned himself in for murder. I'm waiting for the gang to come back together at some point. I think my biggest issue with The Boys right now, and like I said, I'm still enjoying the episodes, last week's episode aside, I feel like because we know we're getting another season that the writers are in a stall pattern. I've had issues. Lucifer did this. The quality of the show declines when you stretch out the story. We're kind of in that holding pattern, and that's how this season has felt.
Well,
so
at least we know that season 5 is it, so there's no more holding.
we know that is the last season for
Season
good.
5 is the last season.
Confirmed.
It's confirmed
Okay.
by the producer. So that means that there will be no more holding patterns.
Season 5 will
in
probably
season
be
5.
bananas.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
And we wrapped up our Boys Season 4 conversation with episode 75, Twisters and Finales. So speaking of finales,
And speaking of not good, not evil necessarily.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this show is the king of it. We are at the end of The Boys Season 4. We watched, again, episode 7 and episode 8.
And I think we're just going to kind of talk about them all together.
Yeah.
'Cause right now, honestly, the finale is what's sticking out in my brain.
Yes.
So I can't even really tell you. In episode 7 is where we got the whole shapeshifter thing with Starlight.
Yeah, we
'Cause-
find that out.
But we need that information is relevant to 8. But I feel like we should mostly just talk about the finale.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you can think of that sticks out particularly to you in episode 7?
No, episode 7 was really like just that build-up episode.
Yeah.
And now we're in episode 8 of the season where boy, a lot happened.
And I am reminded by episode 8, the finale of season 4, why I do like the boys so much.
Yeah, I agree.
They came out punching, and it did kind of irritate me a little bit because I'm like, oh, I just could have used this all season. But a lot of those separated like story points, it all came together in the end. Even the Frenchie stuff all came together in the end, and it was really well done. I still think as a whole, this season of The Boys is probably the weakest for me compared to the other seasons.
I'd
But
agree.
They went out swinging, and it was great. It was a great finale. So well done. And now I am very sad that we have to wait probably 2 years. Ugh, we got to stop this crap.
Yeah. So
Studios.
right off the bat in the episode, Homelander gets Vice President-elect Newman on his Vault talking show and gets frustrated and just outs her as a soup.
Yeah, right off the bat.
And so that throws the entire country into chaos because the incoming vice president is a soup, and
they were running on the platform of like
anti-soup.
Anti-soups.
Yeah. And so the president is suddenly like disavowing her, and what we find out at the end of the episode was Sage, even though Homelander had kicked Sage off the team, this was her machinations the
Yeah.
entire time.
Sage is awesome. Best character of season 4. Best
Yes,
new
I agree.
character. She basically says, I was bored.
Mhm.
I just wanted to see if I could.
Yep.
And I can. So she really had, people were like, even we were at some points, we're like, okay, so what exactly her motivation? Nothing.
Yeah,
She
she was
just-
bored.
She just wanted to see
She's
if
the
she could.
smartest person on the planet, and she was bored.
She was bored.
So she just wanted to see
able
if
to
she
pull it
could
off.
pull it off, and she did.
A-Train lives to see another day.
Yeah, we didn't see A-Train in
We
episode
thought
8, so
A-Train was going to, the last time we did this podcast, we thought A-Train was going to die. Because he had that heroic moment and everything. But in episode 7, this is important for episode 7, he finally, I think, like revealed himself, right? As
Yes.
the leak, essentially. And then he got the heck out of there. So I said to you after episode 7, I was like, I don't think we're going to see A-Train in the finale. I think that's going to be the way you keep that character around for season 5, which is confirmed to be the last season. So A-Train's not in this episode at all.
So then we've got Billy. He is not doing well. Like the disease is really taking a hold of him, and the CIA Mallory person comes to see him, and I guess it's unclear to me if they hatched this plan together or if Mallory kind of was pulling the strings at this point because
Because it's
Billy,
revealed he's not actually in the hospital.
yeah,
He's in a
yeah.
room that they have
so
set up.
they get Ryan to come see Billy, and what the ultimate ulterior motive was they're trying to convince him Homelander is bad and you're the only person who can kill him, so we want you to come with us. We're going to train you for years, and then you can kill your dad.
And the
Which
way,
obviously, which rightfully makes Ryan take a step. He wants a minute to think about it.
the way they went about that, well, not necessarily Butcher, because
Yeah.
he was just wanting to have a conversation and kind of talk to Ryan. The way Grace Mallory went about that was so awful and annoying that honestly, I felt very little empathy with what happened
Oh,
to
agree.
her.
Yeah.
She info dumped all this traumatic stuff on him. Like, she finally tells him the truth about what happened to her mom,
Mm-hmm.
how her mom conceived Ryan.
Yeah.
She pretty much was like, talked about like the whole plane thing, which I think they referenced in season 1, how Homelander actually didn't do that. Was kind of the cause of it. It was a whole setup. And she just goes through all this stuff. And then she's like, oh, by the way, look around. We're in a, FBI like building. I can trap you in here. And he's like, so you're wanting to do to me like what you did to my dad
Yeah.
and use me as a weapon and like not give me any choices. And I think if she had just not overreacted and she had just kind of taken a step back and let Butcher talk to Ryan, I think we might have seen another outcome. But all of that, basically, where Ryan, and I'm seeing a lot of people that are like, oh, Ryan ended up siding with Homelander. I don't necessarily think that's the case.
No, I agree.
I think you could still see Ryan kind of dabbling in, because again, there's no good or bad on the show. There's a lot of gray area. I think you can see him getting a little darker as this goes on, but I'm not necessarily convinced that he's going to be buddy-buddy with his dad anymore either. He basically saw like, oh my gosh, you're trying to imprison me, you're trying to make me do all this stuff, and I'm not sure he intended to, because I still don't think he knows his strength.
No, I agree.
He kind of smacked her out of the way, so wouldn't be trapped on there, and she basically hit her skull, and she is no longer alive.
And at that moment,
Butcher died, as we know him.
And the Jeffrey Dean Morgan tumor monster inside of him has taken over.
Kessler, I
fully.
think that's what they call him. Yeah, and I think that apparently Butcher is the villain in the comics, and I think that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
I think he did have because before Ryan showed up, he had a moment with Huey on the phone, like, tell the boys I'm sorry. He told Huey about the steakhouse that he wanted Huey to go to. I think that's our goodbye.
I agree.
Butcher as we know it.
Yes.
I'm not sure he's coming back. I think the Butcher that the virus, the tumor, the Kessler character, like you said, is completely taken over. And the moment Ryan left, that's where Butcher basically, surrendered, and he's going to do what he needs to get done. And he let the Jeffrey Dean Morgan, as you said, take over. And now we have another villain. And so all of that's going on while we have the other plan. They're trying to keep Robert Singer alive, who is the president-elect at that moment. So we have Huey still hasn't realized that Starlight is a shapeshifter. He finally realizes it when they are in a bunker, and obviously he and Marvin can't they're like, act natural. They're not acting natural.
No.
She figures it out, takes a shot. They have to get the president out of there. But before we get into that, I just have to say, I see you, Eric Kripke, whatever your name is. I know that I'm a little upset with you about the way you portrayed male SA in the previous episodes, but as a Supernatural fan,
He gave us some love.
So that character who plays Robert Singer was Bobby on Supernatural, and he always had catchphrases, idjit and balls. And he said idjit and balls twice. And all the Supernatural fandom collectively was like, that was for us. That was for us.
They really love us.
They really love us. So that was fun. That was a fun little callback.
Well, so they escape with the president.
Yeah, and Starlight actually shows up.
Yeah, and helps.
She was able to gnaw herself out of the metal, I guess, what were those things called? Like
handcuffs or whatever.
Handcuffs or something that they had around. So we got the real Starlight back. We've got a plan in action. Victoria Newman calls Huey up because she realizes what Homelander's really doing. And she's like, you can trust me. I'm going to bring my daughter with you. This isn't the world I want. So Huey's like, all right, that's fine. Bring her. And in walks evil Butcher, who's full-blown villain. And you know what? Victoria Newman deserved better than this.
I think so, yeah.
He splits her in half.
Mm-hmm. Right in front of her daughter.
Right in front of her daughter. And honestly, if you're going to go full villain, make sure you're killing off the kid, too. But I think obviously they let her daughter remain alive.
He didn't want to go full Anakin villain.
Hey, take Anakin's name out of your mouth. Take it out of your mouth. But I think they left her daughter alive, obviously, so she's going to be at odds with all of the boys. And I believe she's going to be in Gen V, which is the spinoff of The Boys. So she's basically carted off to some type of camp for like soup children, which doesn't look great.
Yeah, and then all the boys split.
Yeah, so they all have to split up, go their separate ways, because now they're being hunted. Homelander knows what the plan was. Their plan failed. So we've got Huey, Starlight going off one way. We've got Marvin going off another direction. Oh, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Frenchie and Kimiko. Yay. So basically, this is the first time where I have ever really fully accepted the fact that, like, you know what, if they're not going to be romantic, I'm happy for them to be friends. Because I didn't really ever ship Steve and Robin from Stranger Things. I was like, okay, they're just friends. It's fine. I was like, is that what they're doing? And I actually said to you, I'm like, you know what? This has made me really like, I feel like Kimiko and Frenchie have become closer because they didn't jump into a relationship this season. And they have more of a connection, a bond. And literally, I turned to you and I was like, if this is all I get, just a deep, close friendship, I'm satisfied by it, because I feel like I understand them more and why they have that connection. And then it was like, what a week for Hope and her ships. What a week. And then it all made sense. And Kimiko's like, we have to forgive, ourselves, and that we can be better. And she's like, the reason why I said for you to go off and be with, plot device guy, that Frenchie killed his whole family, whatever. It was because I didn't think that I was, like, worthy of you. And they kissed! Not once, but twice. And that also was a really nice moment after the kiss, because just for a brief minute before the chaos happened, Kimiko and Starlight just got to be girls together. Because Kimiko was like, hey, she, like, shows, because she can't talk, obviously, so she shows Starlight, like, the text, like, saying, like, she and Frenchie kissed, and I thought that was really cute, because it was just nice to see them get to be girls together in a moment of such stress and everything. So those two, they're going off together to get away, but unfortunately, these two horrible, I think they're brother-sister duo, I believe they are characters from Gen V, and one of them has mind control. She takes a hold of Frenchie, the mind control one, and this part just gutted me. Because obviously Frenchie can't even hear what's going on. He's in a trance. Kimiko finally talked. Like, she screamed no.
Yeah.
And she hasn't talked at all yet. And Frenchie can't even hear it, that she screamed no for him. So that was really upsetting.
And all the rest of the boys are being apprehended at the same time. Starlight is able to get away.
She got her powers back.
In that
moment,
and was able to get away.
Not only get her powers back, but she had been, like, working on trying to fly. And it worked. She totally flew up in the sky while Huey's being carted off. And all with I've been missing some of the great music. Like, they've had some funny, like, fall songs. But that Nirvana song.
Yeah, it was good.
It
was kind of over. It was basically the end of the season montage.
Yeah. And if you listen to the lyrics of that song, it goes really well with, like, what's going on with Butcher.
Yeah.
Firecracker lives to see another day, but clearly the medicine she's taking to produce milk is doing a number on her, because she had this scene where she kept coughing. And Homelander's like me when someone coughs around me, like, ugh, get away. That's the only time I'll compare myself to that psychopath. Like, ugh, ugh. But yeah, it was a great finale. It made up. I wouldn't even say the season was lackluster. It just wasn't top tier what I normally expect from the boys. I was still perfectly entertained by each episode. It just wasn't as good as the other seasons. And I feel like when you have a show that's so good,
you notice. Yeah.
But the finale, I don't think the finale, we're going to have this discussion in a future podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the finale won me over enough that The Boys is going to remain at the top of my list for the best thing going. But we'll have to see we'll have to ruminate on it, think about it a little more. I thought, again, great 10 of 10 finale. What about you?
Yeah, great finale. Good season. Like you said, not as good of a season as we've had in the past, but still very good quality.
And it was very creepy watching that finale in light of things that had just happened in the real world, which we're not going to get into. But this show it is a warning for you. This show can be a little on the nose sometimes, to the point where I sometimes feel like we're actually living in an episode of The Boys. And I've always thought if superheroes existed, this is probably how they would be like. It wouldn't be like our little Marvel shows. I feel like it probably, like, a corporation would get a hold of them and would ruin the whole thing. What do you think?
As happens with many things.
Because honestly, the true enemy, which Homelander is now the face of Vought, but it's always been Vought since the beginning. Yeah. We did not see Victoria's dad that used to, because we know he's out of prison. He didn't show up in episode 4. I thought he was going to. And
Yeah.
he's going to find out that she's been offed.
I don't know
right?
if I don't know if he's going to play a role in season 5 or not. I really don't.
I mean, the man plays
I
evil
think,
in everything he's in.
he's just he's not a soup.
Yeah.
He's not in power anymore, so I don't know if he's going to play into the.
He's got to show up, though, right?
They brought him back for just one episode this season, so.
Post-credit scene, though. Who showed up in that?
Yeah, Soldier Boy. We knew
Soulja
that
Boy.
was going to happen.
We knew, so we were waiting for Soldier
Yeah.
Boy to come back. I think next season, Butcher's going to be the villain the whole time. This is my prediction for season 5. Then I'll have you give one. I think Huey is ultimately going to be the one to off Butcher. I think Ryan... You're going to question if Ryan's good or bad, but I do think Ryan will end up coming around at the end a little bit, because we didn't see after Ryan did that to Mallory, we didn't see anything him. We don't know where he is. I want Sage to continue to play a role because she just was bored, and I think even Homelander was like, but I cast you out. Like, why are you coming back? Like, what's going on? And I think her like lackadaisical attitude about it even freaked Homelander out a little bit when he realized that he was like, what? She's like, yeah, I was just bored. I think the Deep is going to be way more evil. We got to see a little bit. He's still dumb as a box of rocks, but we got to see him be a little more evil. What about Ashley? She took V.
She took V. We don't know what she's turned into. It didn't look good, but we will find out. I think I'll be disappointed if we don't get a Butcher Homelander showdown. I don't know. I'm not saying that's how either of those characters are going to end, but I think we need to have, at this point, we need to have a showdown.
Do you think there's redemption for Butcher, or do you think
no? I will be disappointed if they do, unless it's like a last breath. Oh, it wasn't me the whole time kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I think they gave him what he was going to get, and that's it. And this is not, in my mind, this isn't Butcher anymore.
I've read a lot of comparisons. They're saying he's kind of like Venom now.
Yeah, except Venom is fully taken over.
A lot of these superheroes the supes that we see in The Boys are based on actual like superheroes.
Yeah.
Like Soldier Boy is obviously supposed to be like a take on Captain America. I'm definitely looking forward to season 5. I hate that we're probably gonna have to wait like 2 years. That annoys me. I can't stand that, but I will be excited to see how they end the series. I'll be really interested to see who Jared Padalecki is going to play, because he's confirmed, right?
I don't know that it's confirmed.
It better be. I think he should just show up as Sam Winchester.
Exactly. Yeah, he's hunting somebody.
And then that'd be your final scene.
Yeah. So, hey, listen. Before we go on to our next, we did mention the best thing going, and The Boys has been our best thing going for a while now. It was our very first episode where we hashed that out.
On phones. We didn't even have microphones.
Yeah, we're going to hash that out. Now that we've got several shows in the running, we're going to do that conversation again in an upcoming episode. But before we get to that conversation, I want to reach out to everybody who listens. Send us some mail on the link in the episode description and let us know, what is your best show going right now? What is the thing that you are most looking forward to going into 2020, end of 2024, into 2025?
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at The Real Hobo Dan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.